All right. Welcome, everybody. The purpose of this video is to help you understand if I wanted to start today with absolutely no prior knowledge or no prior setup on my computer, what would it take to get started with Python and start learning? So by the end of this video, you should have Python installed, understand how the code actually works, and we'll start off by writing a very, very basic Python program. Even if you've never coded before, have no prior experience, don't have any of the math-heavy concepts. And the other thing that I want to just start out with and lead with is that mistakes are expected. We're going to run into problems. You're probably going to have lots of questions. The main purpose of this video is to get you curious and get you started on this journey. So real quick, I wanted to do a brief overview of what Python is and what it isn't. So Python is what's known as a high-level language, which means it's written in such a way that's very easy to understand from like a human reading it. And then it gets translated down to machine instructions and machine commands, so that as you run a program in, say, Python, we have a syntax that we write it in, and then the file will run line by line and be translated down to machine commands, where it's processed by the machine and it outputs whatever it's asked to output or accomplishes what it's been asked to accomplish. Python is used primarily for automating different tasks. We also use it in lots of different web applications, used very, very heavily in data analytics as well as AI programming. And it's also very heavily used in gaming, in the gaming community. So very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to your browser and come to python.org. You're going to need to download Python on your computer. If you have a Mac, Python actually comes pre-installed. But if you don't, you'll need to download it. And so you can come here, come to download, and then just download the latest version. How you can check this is if you open a terminal, or what's called a terminal, on your computer. This comes pre-installed, so you can open this on any computer. You just search for terminal, Mac, Windows, whatever. Open it up, and you're going to just want to type Python space a hyphen and then version. Sorry, again, mistakes are expected, like I mentioned before. Python double hyphen and then version. And you should see Python followed by some number here. Now, if you don't have Python installed, it didn't install correctly, you didn't add it to the path in installing it and going through the wizard instructions from python.org, you would get an error here that would essentially tell you there's no Python installed. But if everything's good, you should get this Python 3, for me it's 3.13.5, the version that I have installed. So, perfect. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have some sort of an IDE or a code editor to actually write the program, run the program, whatever else. Now, the one that I find the most beginner friendly and easy to use is a program called VS Code. So you can search VS Code, which stands for Visual Studio Code, come to the download and download it for your operating system. Just go through the prompts. It's pretty simple setup. I'm not going to dive too deep into that because I want to actually get into the Python in this video. So I already have it pre-installed here. So I will go ahead and just open it up. Now, the first thing that you should see is this welcome screen once you're in VS Code. This welcome screen will give you a few different options. It's got some walkthroughs. Some of these are really helpful. Some of these are a little less helpful, if I'm being honest. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open a directory or a folder within my PC where I want this file to be saved. So I'll go ahead and just click open here. I'll come to desktops, and I've got my personal projects and my Python demos, and I'll go ahead and open that. Now, as you can see, it's been opened within the VS Code. So now I have my Python demos folder. Right now it's empty. I don't have anything, so I still have the welcome screen. And I can go ahead and on this Python demo, I can either click it here or I can click this new file. And then I'm gonna have to give it a name. You can name this whatever you'd like. I will go tutorial, if I can spell. And then to make this a Python file and designate it as such, I'm going to add .py to the end. And that will create this as a Python script or a Python file with that .py extension. So now I've got the file created, it's open. All I need to do is start actually programming something. Now, before I do any of this, I want to expand on our setup within VS Code. And what I'm going to do is on the left-hand side here, I have this extensions. I'll go ahead and click this, and VS Code has loads of different extensions that are available. I'm going to just search Python, and I'm going to want to make sure that Python debugger is installed. It'll help us to debug programs. I might not cover that in this video, but it's super helpful. You're going to want to install Python, which will install it within VS Code so that you can actually run the Python files. And then one that should come up is Pylance. I recommend this. It's super useful in helping out with errors within your files and helping catch things before the code would, or before your machine would when it tries to run it. So I have those downloaded. Everything's perfect. Now we can go ahead and actually start programming. So the very first thing that I want to do, and it's the most common first program within any language when you're starting to learn, is create a hello world file or program, which in essence, all it does is print something out to the user and tell them hello. That's it. In Python, the syntax is super intuitive. All I'm going to do is type print. I'll open some parentheses, and then within the parentheses, I will tell the print statement what I would like it to output to the user. Now, go ahead and save this, and at this point, I have a completed Python script. I can run this and it will do one very simple thing. It will happen lightning fast because I don't have any complex syntax in here, but I can run this. So with those Python extensions installed and with a .py file extension, you should have this little play button up in the right-hand corner of your VS Code. And what this should do is it should run your Python file. So I can go ahead and click on this here. And what you'll see down here in the terminal is it will start up. It'll run the command to run the file. And then it will output anything that it needs to output here. Now in this case, you can see it printed hello world, and then it closed the file. which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted it to do. If I wanted to print out something else, I could just come below this and I could come in and say, this is a test. You can see my GitHub Copilot attempting to finish this for me, but I'll just go ahead and save what I've got. And now it will print hello world, and then right after it will print this is a test. So let's go ahead, I'll save that, and then I'll run it. And I see just that. Prints hello world, and then finally it prints this is a test. So important distinction here. Python will read your files top to bottom. So it will begin at the top. It will perform any functions that it's told to perform. And then when it gets to the end of the file, as long as all your return conditions are correct and you're actually telling it to stop, it will close the file like it has here. And in this case, it just goes back to a terminal within where the file is stored. So super important distinction here. Your code is a checklist. It's going to go top to bottom, and it's going to execute each step in order in which it stands. So perfect. Now we've got the print statement, and I understand how to print out something. So now, what if I wanted to print out, instead of just supplying a text, I wanted to define a variable and then print that variable? Well, this is perfect. So what I could do here is I could define a variable by giving it a name. We'll say name, followed by an equal sign. And then I can give this any sort of value. I can give it a number value. I can give it a string value, which is just text. Python is great that way. When I define the variable, I can define it as whatever I'd like. So I can go in and say test. And now, instead of printing hello world, let's do just name, right? So now what should happen is I've defined my name. My name is test. And now I'm going to print name. So if I save this and I run the file, instead of printing hello world, it now prints test, which is perfect. Like I mentioned before, this is also great with numbers. I can define it as a number. So now I can print name, and I'll do, my second variable, and I can go ahead and run this. Ooh, now this is perfect. Again, like I mentioned, we are expected to make errors in this. So this is perfect. Let's go ahead and read this. Print name plus age can only concatenate string, not int, into string. Perfect. Okay, so what I've done here is this age is defined currently as an int or an integer. It's a number. It's not a string. If I want to concatenate, which is what this plus sign is doing, combining the two things together, they need to be the same type. So I can't have a string plus an integer. So there's a couple ways I could solve this. Most simple is if I want to just define my age as a string rather than an integer, right? So now I run this and I get my test 25. Perfect. So that outputs. The other way that I could do this is if I left this as an integer, I can come in here and I can cast my variable as a string. So I can say name plus, and then I'm saying make whatever this variable is a string. Now that's done with just str string. And I can save this and I can run it and I will get the same output. There's always multiple ways to solve a problem. And as they come up, try to find the one that works best for your unique situation. If I can ingrain anything in your brain in this whole process, that's what I would want you to understand. So now let's take this a step further. Let's say instead of printing out the same thing every time I run, what if I wanted to take an input from the user and use that in my print statement? I wanted to print something back that comes from the user itself. So I'll define another variable. I'll say name. But this time, what I want to do is I want to get this variable from the user running the program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say input, open and close parentheses, and then I will essentially ask a question. What is your name? Question. And now what will happen is when the file gets to this name, it tries to define the name. It's going to say, well, I need to take an input from the user, and this is the question I'm going to ask them in order to provide that name to me. And then, before I close the program, I would like to say, hello, concatenate with the variable. I promise I'm better at typing than it looks. I'll go ahead and save this. And now what I would expect is I'm going to get the user's name, and then I'm going to print hello plus their name. So again, I'll clean this up so it's a little easier to see. I get this, what is your name? And it stops, waits for me to provide something. Let's say my name is Bob. I hit enter, and then it uses that variable and it prints out hello Bob. Now, if I wanted to run this again, someone else was running it, let's say Jane, and I hit enter. Now it prints hello Jane. Perfect. Now we have a dynamic program that takes something from the user and uses it in my output. Now, what if I wanted to take something from the user, do something with it, and then print it out, right? So let's say I wanted to do some conversion or create a math problem. I think that's a good example. Let's try that. Let's say, what year were you born? Great. So now I will ask the user what year they were born. I'll redefine this variable so it's a little clearer as to what's going on. And then I want to take that year and I want to subtract it from the current year. So let's say define this as age, and I'll do 2026 minus, now I need to cast the input as an integer. I can either do this here, or I could also say, let's do this up here as I accept it, and then I can just minus the year, but the input itself is going to come through as a string always. So I need to do something with it in order to make it math. Essentially, like, this needs to be a number for me to subtract it. So I cast it as an integer. I say age, current year is 2026 minus the year. And then what I can do is I can say print you are plus the, again, I need to cast it as a string to combine it with another string. So you are string age and I'll use the tab complete there, years old. So now what this should do is I'll go ahead and save this, and this will become a very, very simple age calculator. Enter your birth year, and we will calculate how old you are, or I guess rather how old you are this year. You are, and I can even do or / will be, since we don't know what month and what day, and so they could, you know, age up at a different part of the year. Just again, keep this very simple. Oops. Save that. Perfect. Now I'll go ahead and run my program. Now I get what year were you born? I'll say 2000. And now I get my string output of you are / will be 26 years old this year. Great. Now that's all we're going to cover in this first video. In the next video, I'll go through a little more in depth into how you can utilize Python, including functions, as well as go through different loop types. So right now, this is the end of the video. What you should be able to do is you should be able to run Python locally on your computer. You should have everything installed in order to accomplish it. And you should have a very basic understanding of variables, how Python is read, and how to actually run a program on your local computer. Till next time, we'll see you later.